everybody so much for coming to Before You Call the Handyman.
Going in the front.
Sorry. No worries.
It's like a church. You gotta sit all the way in.
That's right. You're late. You gotta sit in front. So, thank you so much for coming out to our program tonight. It's my pleasure to introduce Dan Finley, who's an excellent handyman, also a lifelong friend of mine. So it's kind of fun we get to work together in this way. So I'll let you go from here.
Okay,
Thank you.
Cool, thank you, Becky.
Goody. I couldn't hear your name.
Dan Finley. And I suspect I'll be loud enough for everybody to hear everything because that's kind of my thing. Before we get started, I'm just going to let you know what we're going to do today, a little bit about who I am, how I came to be involved in this business, and we'll get started. Today is real wide-ranging, okay? A lot of area to cover, a lot of time for question and answer, so feel free to just kind of shout it out and keep things rolling. If there's things you want to know about, we'll make sure we cover them. This is a generalized program, so if we don't necessarily hit every topic I've ever come up with and thought of, that's just fine, okay? Sometimes I do a show that's more specific to, say, plumbing or electrical or something where we really focus a little bit. Today, a lot more free form. My name's Dan Finley. I started working for a general contractor as just sort of like hired muscle, easy basic framing, carpentry stuff when I was in college. Because I was in college, I was pre-med and getting a theater degree, which is a fun combination. And so I just want you guys to know if there's any young people in your life who are pre-med and getting a theater degree, buy them a toolbox, because that's what it does. I don't really understand how it works, but that's just the pattern I've recognized as being the only person who's ever done that. So, all right. So yeah, I did. I worked for a general contractor, and I really liked what I was doing. And I wasn't really sure that I wanted a job that was going to require the kind of hours that being a physician did. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to like this working with my hands business. It seems to go well, so I just kept doing it. I've been in the building trades in some capacity now for about 25 years. I worked as a general contractor, just like hired helper, like I said, that's where I started. Did some basic carpentry, got into scenic carpentry, did a lot of theatrical work, carpentry, lights, sound, that kind of stuff. And then at some point ended up working at Chicago Children's Museum for about a decade, which led to joining the Building Engineers Union. So I went back and got an associate's degree in heating and air technology, and got my city boilers license, which is like just fancy industrial grade heating and air stuff. Did that for a few years at a manufacturing plant. Ran my own heating and air business, Handyman service for about 4 years, and then since the last 4 years, I've been working out at Lagunitas Brewery, where I am the supervisor of maintenance over there. And this will be exciting news for basically you, because the rest of these people, not so much. It's just news. They didn't know any of this. But I just got a new job starting in 2 weeks. Put in my notice yesterday. I'm going to Coca-Cola Reyes, where I'll again be maintenance supervisor. See, she was the only one who cared. She's my favorite now. All right. I think somebody asked where. It's Coke. Coca-Cola, yeah. Yeah. Okay, great. Cool.
Don't bring Pepsi into your house.
No.
I worked for Pepsi for 10 years.
Okay, all right, ladies. My show. Thank you very much. Okay, so.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Does anybody have 2 pieces of paper that
Yes.
you left extra pieces
Yes.
of paper? I had a senior moment. I was late. I'm not prepared. Anybody have paper? Thank you.
That said, anything you don't happen to record today, this video's up on the web for a while, right?
Yes.
Yeah, does anybody want to plug how to get to that?
It is on the Glen Ellyn Public Library's YouTube channel.
There you go. Glenbrook Library.
Glen Ellyn.
Yeah, we're going to send it to Glenbrook. We figured they want it.
There, you guys know where we are. YouTube channel. So you guys can see this, and if you ask a question, then you can see yourself on the internet. How exciting, right? Okay. Like I said, today is really general. We're going to go over some basic stuff, some basic tools that you should have, some projects that I think are really great for homeowners to have, under their belt, some things you should be able to, some things you should push yourself to try if you have the opportunity. Plenty of time for question and answer along the way. I want to make sure if you have a thing that's at your house that you're hoping I cover, that you ask me, because there's no way I know until you do. Okay? That said, before we get started, when you guys left your homes today, did anybody notice their house was on fire or flooding? No, great. So no high priority emergencies. Cool, we can move right into the basic section. All right, so I want to cover some basic tools that everybody should have. I'm going to keep it real simple. I'm not going to go over everything you should have. I assume everybody has some tools laying around. But before we get there, I want you to know the first thing you need is a tool box. Okay, a box in which you keep the tools. The reason, and I want you to do what I say and not what I do, because I have many tool boxes. My tools just aren't in the toolbox. They're everywhere else. So, get the tools, keep them in the box, otherwise you're going to find yourself going, where's the wrench? It's in the bathroom where I used it last week, and where's the flashlight? Oh, it's in my car, because I was looking under the glove box, and where's my screwdriver? It's at Bill's house, and then you're over at Bill's house drinking beer for 3 hours and you never fix anything. That's it. Anything will do, guys. You don't need a fancy toolbox, but what I really like are those little nylon things that go on buckets with all the pockets. Okay, they call them a Bucket Boss, is one of the brand names. They're like $5. They're awesome. Keeps your tools organized, keeps them in the box, or keeps them in the bucket. A little space for some bigger stuff. And you can even get a seat that goes on top, okay? And then, you can sit next to your work. Very easy, very chill. Okay, so first thing, like I said, I'm not going to cover everything you need. I'm just going to cover a couple of things. And the way I want to do it is, this is obviously a screwdriver. Very good, very good. You're the first. There, you get a gold star. This is actually a 6-in-1 screwdriver, okay? This is what you need, all right? I'm always amazed when you go to somebody's toolbox and they have like 22 screwdrivers, and they're all the same worn out number 2 Phillips and a flathead that's been bent for 17 years. Okay? You can get rid of those. You can just get rid of those and get yourself this one, okay? It is a 6-in-1. It is going to be pulled apart like this. It's a small flathead, a large flathead, a small Phillips and a flat Phillips, or a small Phillips and large Phillips. That's the one that looks like a plus sign, okay? And then the ends of the tube are actually a 1/4 inch and 5/16 inch nut driver, okay? This is going to get you through turning like 80% of the things in your house, okay? The other thing that's great about this, the reason I like this a lot, is you can take it apart and you can get in small spaces, put a pair of pliers or a crescent wrench on this, and now you got a tiny, tiny screwdriver, okay? So it's really handy. Additionally, you got something that's really hard to turn. You can take the shaft only, put your 1/4 inch Allen key right at the end of it, whoop, like that, okay? And now you have a very high torque screwdriver available to you, okay? So this thing's really modular. I like that. It's nice. It's compact. Again, you don't need the giant box of 37 screwdrivers. You don't need electrical rated screwdrivers. There's no reason for that. What you don't need is this one, 17-in-1. It's a great tool, but you don't need it, okay? Or this thing, which like comes apart. There's like literally 100 bits in this. It ratchets in 2 ways. It's bound to break, okay? It's not going to work very long. It's not going to work very well. And again, it costs about $30. This is $4. It will last for a long time, and it will work very well. Okay. Who knows what this is? Pliers. You guys are so good at this. I'm really proud of you. Okay? No! You want these to be pliers. These are broken hearts. Okay? This is crushed dreams. This is pinched blisters right here. This is a bleeding hand all day long. This thing has 2 sizes, right there and right there. Okay? Sort of big and small, and they don't fit anything. Okay? This is the wrong size for everything in your home. This is garbage. Throw it away. Just get rid of it, okay? I'm serious. This is nothing but damaging the screws and bolts you meant to turn. Now this. This is a pair of pliers. Technically, we call those slip joint pliers. These are groove lock pliers, but everybody will call them channel locks. This It's a brand name, like Kleenex or Jell-O, but that's what everybody's going to call them, channel locks. If you go to the store and you ask for groove lock pliers, they will not know what you are talking about. But if you ask for channel locks, I'm going to take you right to these. They're much longer, okay? So with the same amount of force, you can grab things a lot easier, right? You just got a lot more leverage. 2, that head's offset at a little bit of an angle, okay? So it makes turning things way easier. I got a lot more range, it's a lot better, okay? Additionally, I can go quite a large range from almost 2 inches down to flat, okay? And those jaws will stay parallel across that entire range. So I can grab things like plumbing fixtures, nuts, bolts, pipes, without destroying them every single time, okay? This is a much better tool. This is one of the few tools that I encourage you to, if you don't have one, go get it. It's worth it, okay? These are invaluable if you're going to do any real amount of work. And they come in a whole variety of sizes from big to small, but that's the size you want right there. Let's see, what else is important? I would be remiss if we didn't talk about caulk, okay? Caulk is important. If you're not putting at least a tube of caulk in your home every year, you're not putting enough caulk into your home every year, okay? I got a lot better laugh than I thought. When you go to the hardware store, of course, caulk can be a little intimidating because there are like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 whole rows of caulk. It's like screws, hand tools, caulk, lawnmowers. All you need to know about caulk. The reason there are so many, there are all kind of technically advanced, really great products out there. And if you know what you need, they're really good. I'm not trying to push you away from the higher end brands or the high-tech caulks that do some cool stuff. But if you don't know what you need, there's only 2 questions you need to ask. Is what I'm trying to seal or cover going to get wet? If the answer is no, all you're doing is interior stuff, mostly for hiding, hiding cracks or gluing 2 things together, latex caulk. If it's going to get wet, outside, in a bathroom, in the kitchen, silicone, okay? So is it going to get wet? No. Latex, yes. Silicone, okay? The second question you need to ask yourself is, what color do I want? It's really that simple, okay? Silicone, latex, everything else is just fancy words they're putting on the outside like organic, okay? When you're doing caulk, your caulk gun comes with 3 features that you need to make sure if you're going to buy a caulk gun, but they almost all have them, okay? The first is this one right here, that little wire. Sometimes it hides right there, okay? You may not have noticed it. I know I didn't notice it until my boss yelled at me because I was trying to do something wrong. That wire is for poking the foil seal inside of the tube. I was sitting there forever trying to do it with like a long screw that wouldn't quite fit in, and he came over and said, "What are you doing? What do you think that's for?" And I went, "I didn't know that was there." So, that's what that's for. You'll also see on the back, and there's a hole. Okay, there's a hole right here. That hole is for cutting this tip. Okay? It's pretty terrible most of the time. I'm going to be honest. Usually I use a knife. Okay? Because unless you get a really nice caulk gun, this thing stinks. It just doesn't cut through it. And what it's going to do is it's going to leave you this pinched little edge. Okay? That's going to make all of your caulk difficult to work with. So you get a nice sharp knife and cut it that way. Okay? But if you don't have the knife, you can't find it, that thing will work. Okay? Second, this button, or third is this button right here. Okay? Now different caulk guns will have a couple of different methods to do that. Some of them you got to turn this way, one way, this way. Some of them you just got to pull really hard, but that is the release. Okay? And the reason for that is this. You go, I'm going to caulk this seam right here because I'm going to paint this in a minute and I just want to hide it. You come over here and you go, squish, 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 squish. Right? And then you come over here and you set this down and then you go, whoosh, Oh man, that looks great. I did a really nice job. Dan's right, I can do this stuff. How cool. And then you come back over here and you go, oh man, there's a giant pile of caulk on my table. How lame. If you push this button, there won't be, okay? This advances the plunger. Now you've created tension. You release the tension so it stops oozing caulk forward, okay? Yeah,
I've caulked before,
okay, awesome.
and one question I have is, if I have a small job, you know, then I buy that big tube, which, you know, I like to save money where we can. You could use a little bit of that, and then if you don't use it pretty soon, I've seen that they just, whatever you do, wrap them, tape them at the tip, put them in a Ziploc bag and wrap it around, put a rubber band around it, it still dries out.
Yeah.
Is that just the nature of the beast?
So there are a couple of answers. Yes.
So I bought little tubes too and just hand done it. You know, like little.
Yeah, the little toothpaste tube kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I feel like I'm not like wasting as much, or if it dries out, I don't cry as long. No.
Okay. There's no use crying over dried caulk.
Yeah.
That's just like that's a saying we use a lot.
So that's just one thing. Is there anything you can do to like stop it from drying out?
The best thing you can do, because they sell products for that, little caps and stuff that you're supposed to stick in there. I don't think I've ever saved enough money by buying that thing versus just losing a half a tube of caulk once in a while. But yeah, when you're doing a small job, what I like to do is take the longest, fattest screw I can get my hands on, ideally one that's actually going to go past this point, okay? Make sure there's caulk still in here, all right? Put that screw all the way in, and then I put some electrical tape around it for funsies. That'll keep it for quite a while.
All right.
Let's see. Let's do an experiment here. I wonder if this will work. What do you think? Anybody want to weigh in whether we think this caulk is any good or not? Because that screw has been in there for quite a while, I'd say at this point.
Without any tape around it?
No. I'm not hopeful. I'm not hopeful, but you know, let's find out. But you did mention the small, like toothpaste tube ones. I want to be clear, absolutely identical products in those. Okay, there's nothing wrong with those. It's just you don't need the caulk gun. Okay, here we go. A moment of truth. Who thinks it's gonna flow? Ma'am, I admire your confidence. Oh, look at that! So there you go. There's your answer. I don't really do caulk and paint stuff very much anymore. So that's old. I mean, that is old. So yeah, I did throw that screw out. I feel bad now. But that was like a 3.5-inch long screw, and that was the key. And this is just a little gross looking now, but we'll leave it there if you guys want to come look later. You can see like the first couple inches was real sort of like rusty and gross. So yeah, there's an answer to your question. Put a long screw in it.
We'll go get it. Go get it.
Works really well. I got more screws. It's gonna go. I'll get another one. But yeah, the long screw and the tape is the best method I've ever used. So nothing fancy there. Again, if you're not buying the super expensive caulks though, you're not too much. My biggest advice though is actually, you use a little caulk to do a crack around a door or something, just go around and look for more.
Yeah.
Most of the time you can kind of find enough to use a goodly amount of the caulk at least. So it's not like just one little squirt where you needed it. So that's my advice on that. Okay, let's see, what is something else I want to make sure I show you some other tools. Oh, okay. All right, what are these? Good job, everybody. Good job. Very smart audience out here. You should be proud. So, what I want you to do is go home tonight and take the Ziploc baggie you have of the 2,700 of these that you've gotten with every IKEA piece of furniture and cabinetry and plumbing fixture that you ever got, that you kept in the little Ziploc bag and that you keep in the drawer in the kitchen. Throw that bag away, okay? get yourself a little set, okay? A set of these that does all the sizes, okay? And ideally one that comes apart like this, like that you can actually pull this out of the set, not the ones that are like sort of like a little like multi-tool, because those are, again, just really frustrating whenever you need to work with them. They don't work right, okay? The reason I want you to get rid of that bag, it's not because I need you to go spend money on this set. The ones in those bags are meant for single use. They're designed to suck, okay? They are built to be bad at their job. They're built so that you can install those screws, particularly the things that you get with IKEA type furniture, okay? I'm not trying to pick on that brand name, but I mean the sort of ready to assemble stuff made out of melamine and sort of cheaper materials, okay? Or plumbing fixtures where you're going to put these things into plastic as opposed to metal on metal connections. And the reason they make those so sort of lame and poorly built is because they don't want you to be able to break the product by screwing it down too hard. This is a proper tool. You can put a lot of torque on that fixture, okay? And those small things, you can absolutely crack it. So use that tool that came with it for installation. That's fine. But 2 years from now, when you need to go take it apart for whatever reason and back that out, now it's kind of frozen in there. Maybe there's some corrosion. Maybe it's rusted on a little bit. Maybe there was some caulk behind it. It's stuck in there, and you need to do the thing. And if you go use that cheap tool, most likely you're going to strip out the screw. And then you can't get it out later. You go use the cheap one, you go, ah, man, it didn't work. And then you go get this, and it still doesn't work because now you've damaged the fastener, okay? So just get one of these, keep it in the toolbox, use those for the installation and throw them away. Yes,
What
ma'am.
is that set called?
What's that?
What is that set called again?
Allen keys.
Allen?
Allen keys.
Oh,
Or
Allen.
hex keys. Okay? Hex. Six-sided. Because that's what they are.
Okay, 6.
Right? If you're going to go buy a set, you'll note that ball on the end. All right? That ball on the end will cost you about $1.50. Okay? The whole set's going to be $1.50 more if you get the ones with the balls. The reason for that ball on the end, though, it's got value. If you are approaching an inside corner, okay? Let's say I have an Allen key screw here, okay, right at the bottom of this. If I stick this in and I don't have that little ball, what's going to happen is I'm going to turn it 180 degrees, and then it's going to stop. I'm going to take it out, all day. And if there's a 3-inch long screw, this might make you cry. This might make you give up. This might make you go home and just drink beer with Bill, okay? So, that little ball allows you to pivot just this much and still engage the screw. Imagine the table underneath me, okay? So it allows you to pivot just that much, and as you turn it, that short arm will clear the table, okay? So instead of having to come here and go tunk, tunk, tunk against the table, you get to go like this, okay? So that's what those little balls are for. Can we see that? Okay. Can we see that in the vent? Okay. Awesome. So yeah, like I said, those balls cost you a little bit extra. It's worth it if you're going to be doing much. Those are largely for assembling that kind of furniture. Also, again, plumbing fixtures, sinks, faucets, tubs, toilet seats. Yeah, all those little screws. Every once in a while, you're like, oh, there's a screw in the back of this. I can't even see what it is. It's this. It's this. I'm sure of it. I don't even have to go to your house. It's this. Okay. All right. Said that. I have some other tools here. If we need to talk about them, we can. Those are the basic tools I wanted to make sure you guys saw, okay? A couple of things I didn't cover intentionally. Safety equipment, okay? There's a reason I don't cover safety equipment. My lawyers advise me not to, okay? Because I don't want to be sued by any of you people when you get hurt. Take safety seriously, but I couldn't possibly cover all the things, okay? If anything, just wear safety glasses like all the time. Like put them on right now. Leave them on for the rest of your life. That's what OSHA says we should all do. All this, shower with them on. Things are dangerous in the world. Okay, the world's a dangerous place. One of the other things I didn't talk about was power tools. Okay, there's a real specific reason I don't. As a homeowner, you probably don't need one at all. Okay, as a homeowner, you probably don't need one at all. Now. Do you want one? Go get it. Have fun. I got no problem with it. I have, I don't know, literally 12 drills. I mean, if we're gonna count all the different ones, the right angle drill, the cordless drill, the power drill, the impact gun, probably 12, okay? And you can have them too. I'm not trying to keep all the fun, but if it's occasional that you're going to use this kind of thing, okay? A good one is gonna cost upwards of 150 bucks. And if you wanna get the cordless one, which is probably what you really need or want, okay? You're gonna have to deal with the batteries, and that's gonna be easily a $200 purchase, okay? The other thing is you're gonna have one or two things happen with the battery. You're either the person that never charges the battery, and then every time you go to use it, now your battery's dead. So first thing you gotta do is plug your battery in, and then sit down and have a beer with Bill, okay? Now I don't know why Bill's hanging out so much and why Bill can't help us out more, but he doesn't do much. But the other option is to keep the battery on the charger all the time. Keep the battery on the charger for a year without ever using it, and go back. A lot of those batteries no longer work. They've been charged and uncharged too many times without ever doing anything, okay? Battery technology has improved. They're better than they used to be. They last longer than they used to be. You can get a little bit more power out of even small batteries, so they're still cool. But you can rent a power drill that is brand new, that is really nice, that is as beefy as you could possibly want. The last time I rented one, it cost me $9. That was for a day. $9 for a day. So if you only need it 10 times a year, you got to go like 2.5 years before it makes sense to purchase it. And by 2.5 years, you're probably buying a new battery, okay? So again, totally worth it, but you don't really need it most of the time as a homeowner. If you did as a homeowner, I do encourage you to get one of these smaller ones, okay? This is the right size for anything but driving screws, okay? If you're going to be framing out your house and you want to drive a bunch of screws, if you're going to do a whole drywall project and you're frame it, you're going to put all the drywall in your bathroom, yeah, you're going to want something bigger than this, okay? But this one is great for, oh, you need to take out 3 screws and put them back in later, okay? And this is great for that kind of a thing. And it fits in the drawer, stays in the toolbox, nice and easy, no big deal. So I encourage that level. This is 12 volt, okay? What you don't want is the off-brand, like weird, like tiny little pocket one that my sister has that she keeps, and she's like, look, it's cool, Danny. I mean, like I don't know why they even made that thing. You should just give it to the children because that's who it's for. Okay, so power tools, safety equipment, some basic tools. I'm going to move on to the heavier core stuff here in a minute. Do you have any questions? Cool. Great. Everybody's ready. Here we go. I want to talk about projects you should and shouldn't take on in your home. Okay? First off, here's some things that everybody should do for sure. Okay? 1, change your furnace filter. Okay? Change your furnace filter frequently. It's the best, and in many cases, the only thing that you as an untrained homeowner should really be doing for your HVAC system. Your HVAC system is one of the most expensive things that you're ever going to have to worry about on your house, right? Particularly because if your furnace goes out, you're getting it fixed. In this climate, you're getting it fixed fast, right? We're not making it a winter in Chicago land without a furnace. I know one lady who did it. I went out, she went, that's too expensive. And I went, okay. And she went a whole year and then called me back the next year, same problem, still broken. It's like, what'd you do last year? And she went, I wore coats.
Oh.
This is 80-year-old lady, tough as nails, man, I tell you what. So the only thing you can really do is change your furnace filter, okay? When I say that, what I want you to do, unless you have a professional, licensed, competent person come out, look at your furnace and evaluate your total external static pressure and tell you what type of filter to use, I want you to use the cheapest one that fits in that box. And the reason is because after 15 years of looking at furnaces for people, the vast majority of furnaces and air conditioners are too big for the home they are in. They are too big for the home they are in. And the ductwork is too small for the home, particularly if you have a second floor that was once an attic, a basement that was once a crawl space, a basement that was never intended to be conditioned space, in addition to your house going that way that wasn't there originally, okay? We often do this thing where we build our house and we make it bigger, right? And we don't think about the ductwork because we didn't worry about it before. And then we go, man, it's cold in the addition all winter. This is stupid. What did we do? And you go, oh, right, there's no ducts. I know, we'll poke a little hole in there, we'll put 3 straws in, and that'll be good enough, okay? If you don't design it from the ground up, it can often be very, very problematic and very expensive to retrofit, so nobody ever wants to do it. So an HVAC person comes out, and the first guy says, well, what we got to do is tear out this wall, and we're going to run ductwork over there, we're going to do this, and that, and the other, and then we'll get you the furnace, and it's going to cost you $18,000. And some other guy comes by, and he goes, well, why don't you get you a bigger furnace? And you go, oh, I like that. How much is that? $8,000. Oh, yeah, $10,000 cheaper for a bigger furnace? Yeah, do that, do that. No, that is not the way it works. So generally speaking, I've seen oversized furnaces, oversized air conditioners, and undersized ductwork. So if you put this expensive, the pleated filter that's like 17 inches wide, that will filter out every bug and gnat and micro particle that you've ever seen, and your air will be amazing for you to breathe, it's going to choke all the air on your furnace and the thing's going to overheat and die. Okay? So get the one that looks like green or blue, like cotton candy, kind of floss material. They're cheap, and you got to change them every 30 days. Because part of the deal with them is their static charge, okay? And that thing is going to dwindle fast, okay, once it starts picking up actual dirt, okay? Again, if your system is good and was designed properly, you can get by with a better filter, okay? But if you don't know, if nobody told you, nobody said, hey, use this one, general recommendation, the cheapest one you can get is what's going to get the airflow through. Remember, that filter is not about the air you breathe. That filter is for the machine. It keeps the machine clean. The air you breathe, if you want to clean that, get one of those like HEPA filters or those ozone things, and I'm not even here to tell you if they work or not. I don't know. Okay? I only moved to the suburbs recently and started dealing with allergies. I lived in the city for 20 years. We have smoke and we have smog and no allergies. Like there's no pollen and there's no trees. And now I'm out here and I can't breathe and my eyes are watering every day. It's horrifying. I think I have to move. But all that said, that furnace filter, I don't care how fancy it is, it's not going to change that for you. Okay? If you want cleaner air, you got to have a dedicated product for cleaning the air. That filter is to keep your furnace clean, and it's happy with a cheapie most of the time. Yeah.
Okay, what do the electrostatic air cleaners do? Are they for the furnace or are they for our air?
Okay, you're talking about the ones that are actually like powered.
Yeah.
You turn them on and they go clickety click 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 click.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are, in theory, a little bit more for you. Right. Here's my problem with the concept. What are you trying to clean out? Probably mostly allergens. You know, I mean that's a lot of what people are. I want to breathe better. I want less pollen in the house. Okay, cool. That's great. When is the pollen there most? Pollen's there most in the fall and in the spring, when you're not really turning on your system very much. Because remember, if the furnace isn't heating or cooling the air, it's not moving the air, and that filter's not doing anything for anybody. So on the days when the pollen is highest, that thing is doing the least amount of work. And all winter long, when it's freezing, that furnace is going all the time, but there's nothing to filter out, right? So it's not that they don't work. It's not that they aren't there for the air filter. But if you want cleaner air, if you're having an upper respiratory system, and you want to clean the air in your house for a reason, looking at that part of your house is the wrong place to look.
Because that thing is only attached to the heating aspect.
Correct.
It's not to the AC at all.
Well, no, it's for both.
Okay.
It's for both. Assuming you have a conventional split system,
Yeah.
right? It's for both. But I need the air running, right?
Yeah.
So on a day when it's 68 degrees, 70 degrees out, and you're set for 72 on AC,
Not doing it.
it doesn't do anything.
Even if you have the fan in the on setting, not the auto?
If you have the fan in the on setting, not the auto, you get a little bit, okay, yeah.
Okay.
All right, yes, if you turn the fan on instead of auto, absolutely. it's still going to be an issue of the amount of airflow through that house was never, the duct system was never designed, under any circumstance, nobody's house, was it designed to pull air out to clean it, right? We put registers where we need them hopefully for thermal efficiency, more often for where it's convenient, you know? So it just, again, it's not designed for that, so it's not gonna do a great job. Yeah, if anybody is looking to upgrade your system, by the way, what I do recommend is, what are they calling now? Energy, what's that? No, I mean, yeah, an energy audit is great. With the equipment, they sell these fresh air energy devices, I'll think of it. But it pulls in fresh air, blows out house air, and runs a desiccant wheel around. So it conditions humidity and temperature of the incoming air with the outgoing air. So it takes the moisture in the winter and keeps it in your house, in the summer keeps it out of your house, and moves the temperature, but it keeps fresh air coming in. They're really effective. Yeah, go ahead.
Any suggestions about a boiler and then baseboard heat type of house compared to, because there's no filter?
Correct.
Yeah,
Because you're
but
not
there
going-
is with the AC because it
Right.
comes from the attic,
Yeah.
really goofy.
So again, then you don't need to change the furnace, the filter all winter, unless again you're using the fan for circulation purposes. Okay, which is fine, particularly if you have some areas that are hotter and colder. You want to just use that fan if it helps to move. That's totally acceptable. To just leave your air conditioner off, but turn your fan to the on, and then you're still going to want to change that filter. Whether
With
it's
a boiler?
was that?
A
Do you have air conditioning as well, or just boiler?
It was put in the attic,
Mhm.
and then it comes down to the closets, believe it or not.
Okay.
That silver stuff, whatever that is, that tube thing, comes from the attic. It's so goofy.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
But that's the way we had to do it because it's baseboard heat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I was saying is, if you have just a boiler, or you have a boiler and
Just a boiler.
just a boiler.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, you don't even have a place for it. You're good. You're good. I'd recommend getting your boiler serviced by a professional at least every other year. But yeah, that's boiler heat is great. I like boiler heat. Yeah.
If you have a filter and it doesn't look, there's anything on it, you still say change it every 30 days?
If you're using those cheap ones, yeah, I do.
You
First
don't
of
see
all,
anything on them or anything?
the cheap ones, like I said, they tend to pick up things with an electrostatic charge, and so sometimes that'll get wiped out by an amount of things that are on it that you can't quite see. The other thing is those things are usually about 75 cents or $1. Every 30 days, that's probably worth it, saving the 6 cents over the year, or the $6 over the course of the year. If you want to, go ahead, but I say just change it. What's the point of pulling it out, looking at it, and then you got this extra, just change it. It's not worth the hassle to make that decision, is my opinion. But, you know, if you want to look, yeah, that's what you're looking for. Just use a flashlight. Really give it a good look. Because if you're picking stuff up and you've already picked up, you're done. It's trash. Okay? All right, yeah.
I have found that I need to have a magic marker there, and I mark the date on that sheet filter so that I remember what I'm doing.
Absolutely. Fine choice. What I like to do is
I'm
by,
not saying I try to do it every month. I put it on the calendar, but you know, in other words, so that's why I date it. And I just leave the magic marker right there.
there you go. What I do often is buy the 6-pack of them,
Yeah, that's what
and I open them up day one, and I write January, February, March, April, May, June. And
Well,
I sit those next to the furnace, then if I happen to miss a month, I at least know where I'm at, right? But yeah, absolutely right on. I certainly write on, when I was working for myself, I'd absolutely write on if I changed yours, and let you know. Yeah?
and when I install a furnace, a garage door, or whatever, I know this sounds sacrilegious, I write the date on it, because I forget. All right? In other words, there's a lot to remember. I'm not saying I didn't say the paperwork,
Mhm.
but to find the paperwork and try to figure out, so I just take that permanent marker and
Yeah.
I write on
Yeah.
the furnace. I even write the telephone number of the person I maybe want to call, because, you know, you could lose your cell phone.
Well, and your own stuff, go ahead and write all over it. You know what I mean? You can always write on the back, dates, times, people who worked on it, stuff that's been done, totally reasonable, and it's valuable if you do have a professional come back later and go, oh, look what I did. All right, so how are we doing on time? Okay, cool. All right, I like the questions. I want to get to this real quick. Drywall. I want you to try to fix your own drywall once in a while. I don't mean drywall your kitchen when you have it remodeled, okay? I want you to think about doing patches, scratches, little holes, okay? It's really easy, all right? It's really easy. And the reason I encourage you to do it is the cost of entry is so low, okay? You need like $30 worth of materials and stuff, and you have enough forever, okay? And it can save you a lot of money. You remember that story I was telling before about the guy who I went in and I went, oh, you cut the holes and fix it? Yeah, that's a way cheaper job than if I, as the electrician or the plumber or something, came in and said, okay, I'm gonna cut a hole here, 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 do the work, and then, oh, here. Call my buddy Jim, he'll come fix this tomorrow, right? Jim's probably not the cheapest you could get a handle on, right? Additionally, if I say, oh, you know what, I'll fix it for you. I'm an electrician. I probably do really crappy drywall work, okay? I've seen, the number of times I've gone in and go, oh, what happened there? They're like, oh, we had a plumber come in. It never looked right after that. It's because it's a plumber. How's the pipes? They're great? Yeah, because it's a plumber, okay? So, this stuff right here. See that number? This is what we call hot mud. Hot mud, okay? So if you're gonna do drywall work, right? There's holes in the drywall, whether they're big or little. You have to tape the joints, okay? A little bit of paper tape like this, or the fiberglass mesh tape, okay? And then you're gonna go over it with one of three products, okay? The first product is the stuff they always used to use. It's dry, you mix it with water. It's wet for like 24 hours, okay? So you have to coat it, and if you want to do another coat, you've got to come back the next day and coat it again, okay? So if you really know what you're doing, you can totally do 2 coats and be ready to go, okay? But if you don't know what you're doing, sometimes it takes 3 coats or 4 coats, or, you know, I mean, every once in a while that 5th coat, right? This stuff, cheap, super cheap, okay? Just like the stuff, the conventional stuff. You mix it with water, it's ready to go. But that number is the approximate number of minutes until it's dry. Okay? Not dry enough to paint, but dry enough to recoat. Okay? And they sell it in a whole bunch of numbers from 5 to 90. Okay? You can get, I know they do 5, they do 20, they do 45, they do 60 and 90, I think are the mixes. Okay? And somebody always wants to know, can I mix them? Yeah, sure, go ahead. But do you really need 42-minute drywall? Like, it's not perfect. Like, it's not, you know, this isn't gauged. We can't set NASA's time clock by this, okay? It's just a rough estimate. The 5 stuff, really fast. But the beauty of it is, if you're just doing a small patch, you can mix up a cup of this, okay? Go mix up another cup, and you're ready to go for that second coat, okay? Thin coats, many of them, make drywall patching for the amateur pretty successful most of the time, okay? I see it, I'll get you in a second. By the way, fiberglass versus paper tape, just a choice. Whatever you want, there's no right or wrong. I don't care which you use, okay? Fiberglass is usually self-adhesive, which makes it a little easier to put on, but it's a little thicker and harder to cover successfully. That said, some people think it's stronger. I don't. This stuff, if you don't get it wet enough in the process of putting it on, will bubble later and be a pain in your life. Okay, go ahead.
Do you sand in between coats?
No, do not. Nice thin coats, okay? After you've let it go, scrape it with a putty knife to get the big snarls off. Keep them thin and easy, don't sand until you're done, okay? When you sort of can't see everything, that's when you sand. If you go sanding between every coat, you're gonna be there for the rest of your life. Okay, because you're gonna sand off the finished fine bits that you just did, and then you're gonna do them again, and then you're gonna sand them off, and then you're gonna do it again, and you sand them off, and like Mr. Miyagi, wax on, wax off. So yeah, usually 3 coats works for me, and I only sand that last one. Sometimes I gotta go back after I sanded once and go, ooh, a little more, a little more. Okay, yeah.
I took a shelf off the wall.
Uh-huh.
And I have a nice hole.
Uh-huh, yeah.
What do I fill that with?
How big is the hole? Is that big?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what you do. A hole, A hole that you can put your finger in but not much more, you just need spackle, by the way. We don't even need this stuff. Okay? Spackle is like real super fluffy, no structure to it. It would crack if you did it anything bigger than this. A hole up to about, you know, not quite your fist, right? Maybe your fist, but not mine, okay? All you gotta do is this stuff, okay? You're gonna want the fiberglass stuff, because it's adhesive and you got that hole. Maybe if it's on the big side, you can actually just stuff some paper in the back, okay? Just put 3 or 4 strips one way, 3 or 4 strips the other way, coat, coat, coat. That's gonna take like 5 or 6 coats. Again, use this stuff, okay? Because then you can get it done in one day, right? Do most of the work in one day, come back the second day and sand and paint, okay? Conventional stuff, a hole like that can take quite a while, okay? Anything bigger than about that, okay? You're gonna need to put a patch of drywall over, okay? Here's some tips on that, by the way. 1, if you can, use a bit of drywall that's actually slightly thinner than the drywall you're working on. So if your wall is 1/2 inch, which is most of the time what you're dealing with, you can get 3/8 inch drywall, okay? And that negative space gives you something to fill with this mud, okay? Can make it a little easier, okay? You definitely don't want something thicker, all right? Same thickness is okay, a little thinner is easy. All you're gonna do, you're gonna screw behind the hole a couple of sticks, okay? It can be just about anything, all right? A little bit of caulk on the side of those sticks facing the wall. So those are going in the hole, into the back, okay? Then you're gonna screw the patch over them. Tape with this. Again, slightly thinner patch product. Second, cut the patch, okay? Nice and square, real easy here. Take that, put it on the wall. Trace the hole. Then cut that to fit. Instead of trying to take that hole that got made, you know, when somebody won the World Cup and got really excited, okay, and it's like all amorphous, trying to make that perfectly over here and put it in and shape it again and put it in. No. Cut this nice square a little bigger than the hole and then cut the wall to fit, okay? Then this doesn't have to be square, it can be a trapezoid, it doesn't matter. You cut it the same shape, okay? So I want you guys to try drywall. It's cheap, it's safe, you're not gonna hurt yourself, you're not gonna damage your property. In a worst case scenario, you call somebody out. And they're like, whatever. Doesn't cost any more because you already started. It's not harder for me. Whoosh, splash, splash, splash. Those drywall guys are in and out. Lickety split. Electrical. Yeah, go ahead.
What if you have plaster walls?
What if you have plaster walls? Is it important to you that you have plaster walls? Listen, here's what I'm
The
saying.
house came that way.
Right. If it's a historic home, right, and you want it done up to historic standards, hey, you're going to get somebody out there that knows what they're doing. If you got a plaster wall, you can absolutely patch it with regular joint compound materials. There's no reason you can't, okay? What you have to be careful of is it cracking, okay? So if what you're dealing with is just some crumbly spot, okay, that you can still see the lath behind it, okay, the wood strips, okay, you can absolutely just get rid of anything that's loose, okay, make sure anything that's going to crumble still is gone, and then just work as normal, okay? Plaster can be really thin, you can get 1/4 inch thick drywall, okay? And just stuff it in that hole, okay, again, ideally a little bit recessed, and you can do conventional techniques, okay? It can absolutely work. Just a little more finicky, because plaster tends to, particularly old plaster, break as you're working through it, okay? All right, electrical. I want to be clear. I'm not talking about code. I'm not talking about legal issues here. It's not what I'm here to discuss. I'm here to help you fix your houses. Electrical. These are switch plates, okay? You can absolutely replace these, okay? You do not need to call somebody to fix this. The number of times I got called to somebody's house when I was running a handyman company, and they're like, oh yeah, I need 10 outlets fixed. And I'd show up, and they just mean these things got cracked. Dude, this is not electrical work. This is just a screw, okay? You don't even need to turn the breaker off to do this, okay? And I say that in full confidence that you're not going to get hurt. So you can absolutely replace those yourself. My personal opinion, you can replace these yourself too. Switches, outlets, light fixtures. There are 3 rules you absolutely must follow. Rule number 1, you can replace the same thing. You don't get to change anything, okay? So if you got an outlet, a switch that failed, you can put a new switch in. What I don't want you doing is going, oh, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a switch with one of those half outlets too. No. You're not ready for that yet, okay? But you can replace an outlet with an outlet, a switch with a switch, or a light fixture with a light fixture, okay? So that's rule number 1, like for like, okay? Rule number 2, there are 3 tools you must have. You must have the following tools. There is not a substitute available. You must have these tools. 1, a wire stripper, okay? A good one, okay? I don't care about the reason, I don't care about this because it is insulated. We're going to talk about that later. But if you cannot properly strip the wires, okay, you can't really do the work, okay? So you must have one of these. Because what people tend to do is be like, I don't have one of these. I'll do it with, I don't know, I'll just ram at it with this, and you damage the wire and it doesn't work, okay? So you got to have these. 2, you must have 2 separate devices for sensing power in the box. Okay? 2 separate devices. And one of them must be like this, which is what's called a non-contact voltage detector. Okay? A non-contact voltage detector is cool because, I gotta do this low, I apologize. You stick it in the hole, and it tells you if the power is there. Okay? And then outlets, there we go. Alright? So I didn't have to expose any wires, I didn't have to do anything, and this will work. Son of a... I'll deal with that in a minute. Okay. That will work just next to a wire. It doesn't need any exposed metal. Okay? You don't need an exposed terminal or the end of a wire. You don't need to stick it in an outlet. If I had a fully insulated wire, if I had an extension cord, okay, that thing will tell you whether or not the extension cord is plugged in just by rubbing it next to it. Okay? The second thing you're going to need is redundancy. Okay? You need to have this with 2 devices. All right? This is a great thing. It's $5. It plugs in. What's nice about this is it actually tells you whether it's wired correctly or not. Okay? With just a couple lights and a little chart on the front there. This is only valuable though.
What did you call that, please?
This?
What did you call it? Yeah.
A plug tester. I believe it's actually called a receptacle tester. Yeah. But these just plug into the outlets and they tell you whether it's wired properly or whether it's powered, okay? The problem with this is you can't do a light switch with that. Okay? You can only do a plug. I have meters, okay? These are about $100, you probably don't need one. But you can buy a $10 version of this, which will allow you to touch the metal terminals where wires go, okay? Okay? You can buy a $10 version of this, all right? And that should be your redundancy, okay? But I want you to use this poorly broken thing. Yeah, there's another battery up there. This guy first, okay? And what you need to do is get every circuit in the thing you are working on powered down, okay? So if you're going to change a light switch, you have to turn off the power to the light switch. But there might be other circuits running through that same box. That non-voltage, you can just stick it in there. If it's still beeping, just go start hitting circuits until it's done. My real advice is this. Do it during the day, okay? When there's sunlight, just go hit the whole switch. Turn the whole house off, okay? Then there's no risk, okay? So those are the 3 rules. Like for like, you must have those 3 tools I mentioned. and all the power in the pot you're going to work on must be off, okay? After that, these things are super easy. It's just 2 screws on the side of it, and 2 screws on the top and bottom that hold it in place, okay? You're doing wire for wire. There's a diagram in each one of these that comes with it, and the best part is with electrical, if you do it wrong, the breaker pops. It tells you right away, you messed it up, man. Try again, all right? If you do plumbing wrong, you might have a tiny drip that you don't notice until you've rotted out your cabinet. So plumbing, I encourage you to be a little more cautious with, okay? How are you doing on time? I feel like 8 o'clock?
Yeah, it's 8 o'clock.
Okay, so first off, any other questions? Nothing. Everybody,
I have a question.
yeah?
What if you just got a new roof and they took out your power fan and you no longer have power in the bathroom? What should you do? Call an electrician? Or go to the box?
Well, okay. There's a whole lot of questions there. All right, 1, I would call the roofer and be like, hey, buddy, you messed it up.
I did.
Okay, so that would be my first call. And if you cannot get satisfaction from that person, we're talking about the bathroom exhaust fan?
Well, yeah, that bathroom exhaust fan and the light no longer work. They
Okay.
took out an exhaust fan that was supposed to clear out the attic. Small
Uh-huh.
attic. It's a very small house.
Yeah. And did you go check your circuit panels?
No.
Okay.
I didn't go check this.
So go check them, okay? I'm gonna go over this because this is valuable. This is a circuit breaker, okay? This is the whole thing. This is what it looks like inside that box. All you'll ever see is this, okay? If you start seeing this, you've made a mistake, okay? So just step away, we'll call somebody professional, okay? You should just see this, all right? What's important is that's gonna be on, that's gonna be off. Tripped is in the middle, okay? Like I can't even, it's kind of like that, okay? It can be very difficult to notice, okay? Particularly on an old breaker. Sometimes an old breaker will actually just kind of like sit like this. It did its job. It stopped the flow of electricity. It's off, but it looks totally on. But if you touch this, it's got, this one's old and broken, that's why I have it, okay? But if you touch this, it's got some resistance to it. It doesn't want to move the other way. One that's blown does exactly like this, like it trips really easy, okay? You can feel it's loose and wiggly. To reset a breaker, you must turn it all the way off, then back on, okay? If it's in the middle and you just go, it's not working, it won't work, okay? Turn it all the way off, and then back on, okay? Again, number of times I've been called out to somebody's house, and they're like, I don't know what happened, and you go, okay, cool, all right? So yeah, step 1, go check your breaker panel. Most likely they just kind of stepped on the cord,
Okay.
and hopefully you can just go, and everything works.
Well, I wasn't gonna touch anything now.
You can absolutely try this. You don't need to call somebody to do that for you. Because here's what's going to happen. If they broke the cord or something, you're going to go like this, and then go like this, and it's going to do it again on its own. If it does that, stop. Don't do it again. Don't go, if I hold it for a minute, maybe it'll stay. Okay? Seen it. Happens. Don't do that. Okay? Just click it on once. If it clicks off on its own again, then you got to call somebody. Okay? And probably what they did is disconnect it. And then make sure the person you call knows what's going on and takes pictures and things like that so you can yell at that roofer and get your money.
I
Okay?
already yelled at that. I didn't yell at that.
I'm just saying. Yeah, all right, all right. Anyways, I'd yell at the roofer some more. You can always yell at a roofer more. That's again, an industry phrase we'd like to kick around. You can always yell at the roofer more. Yeah, so everybody can totally reset a breaker. Worth noting, by the way, the ones that look like this, the doubles, these are for the 240 volt loads. So electric ranges, air conditioners, electric dryers, electric water heaters,
Refrigerators?
refrigerators, no. Refrigerators are going to be on the single breakers. Those are 120s. Maybe you have something like this for a sub panel or an electric car charger as well. Okay? Yeah.
If a dimmer switch
Mhm.
is warm,
Warm?
is that a problem?
Not necessarily. If it's a little warm, those things. So a dimmer switch, the way it really works is it limits the amount of the current going to the light. So it's got to absorb that electricity and turn it into heat. If you take this off the wall, you'll actually see dimmer switches have a big like aluminum plate with little fins on them. That's to exhaust the heat. So it's pretty normal for them to be a little bit warm. It shouldn't be discoloring anything, melting anything, shouldn't be able to smell it really, okay? If any of those things are happening, you might want to think about replacing it.
So you're better with it all the way on or all the way off?
No, because even all the way on, it's still restricting power. A dimmer switch will always restrict power. Now, that said, fun fact. First of all, dimmer switches are not necessarily universal. So as we've changed lights from incandescent to fluorescent to LED, an old style dimmer switch may not work with a new light. They also are limited in the amount of watts they can drive. So if you've put more lights on it, you remodeled your kitchen, added 3 cans, that dimmer switch may not work anymore. The last thing is, almost all of them, if you take the front plate off, you'll see a tiny little screw here, okay? What that screw is for is setting the bottom end, okay, of what that thing will do. And it's designed so I got a switch that can handle up to 600 watts, but I only have 100 watts on. It allows me to play with that. So what you do is you set it to the low setting, and then you move that screw until your light stops flickering. Okay? So if you have those lights that flicker at the bottom end of a dimmer, you can just pull this and look for that little tiny plastic screw. Okay? It is plastic, and don't move it too hard. The individual dimmer switch will have instructions available online for the details on that. Sometimes they're little sliders, sometimes they're little screws. Okay? Yep.
One more question.
Hit me.
If your circuit breaker pops
Yep.
and you know that it's labeled well, so you test it,
Yep.
it pops back on, everything's fine.
Great.
2 months later it pops.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, oh, it's the same one. How do you know it's wrong? And if it goes back on fine for a long period of time.
Okay. This is not a hypothetical.
Of course not.
Right. So let's answer some details. What are we powering?
It's just can lights in the basement.
Can lights in the basement. Notice any patterns? Does it happen when it rains or anything like that? No? Just can lights, incandescent cans, LEDs?
They're mixed now.
Mixed. Okay. I wouldn't worry anything about the breakers. First thing I would do is actually change it so you don't have it mixed.
So my dimmer, or whatever my switch is for old. So obviously I'm replacing them with LED.
Yeah.
So that doesn't,
Yeah.
I was told that might be an incompatibility that's messing it up.
That I would suspect that might be it. If it's only popping every couple of months, I got no safety concerns. Okay, it's popping, so it's still doing its job. It's happening pretty rarely, so I don't think there's any major problem that you're covering up. Okay, again, can't smell anything. I'm seeing any discoloration in the panels or the switches or anything like that. You're not blowing through light bulbs every 2 weeks. I think as you start to replace the old and get into all LED, this problem goes away.
Then I have to switch the switch itself.
The dimmer?
Right, into like an LED something, right?
Yeah.
Does that count as switching one for one?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yes. Dimmer for dimmer, totally okay. Light switch for dimmer, totally okay.
Even if it's LED versus old?
Yeah, totally fine. None of that matters. GFCI, okay? The outlets by sinks and stuff with the little push buttons, they go pop and test, all right? For the regular ones, that's the same. Those are the same, you can change those. Now, there's places where you need a GFCI by code, okay? So what usually I'm saying is you can take out the old style and put in the new, okay? Not the other way around, all right? Not, oh, this one pops like every day. I'm just gonna put in one that doesn't pop. No, that's not what I'm saying. Okay, you can't do that. But a GFCI and a regular old style outlet are the same concept electrically. Okay, so as long as there's no evidence of problems, the only thing with that is the GFCIs and true of the dimmer as well, by the way. These sort of conventional things are pretty small. If what you have behind the wall is a full-size box, everything's kosher. If what you have is a thing called a handy box or a remodel box, okay, they're pretty small and it can be hard to get these things physically in there, okay? If it is difficult to fit physically, stop and don't do it, okay? If it physically fits easy, you're good, no problem. All right?
What does it
I got you
mean?
next. Yeah, no, you're good.
What does it mean if you turn something on and something else dims?
It means they're on the same circuit almost undoubtedly. Again, this is a hypothetical or no?
It's just real.
It's real. What are we turning on? What's dimming?
My hair dryer.
Ah, your hair dryer. And the bathroom light dims? You're fine. No problems. Hair dryers take up a lot of energy. Okay? Hair dryers take up a lot of energy, and you just have a smaller circuit going through, and that light is just on the same circuit. It's hard to get the amperage through.
And there's a switch on the other side that I have a three-way lamp.
Okay.
With the newer bulbs in it. And I turn that and I can hear the, whatever that brand new switch that's supposed to be right water and stuff. It pops.
Every time you turn on,
Not all the time, no.
okay, but often you'll turn on the three-way switch.
And I can hear it pop. I always put on the low switch, get for the lamp. And then I can hear the CFL, or what you call that?
The GFCI,
GFC.
ground fault circuit interrupter.
That thing,
Mhm.
it pops
Yeah. Okay.
on occasion,
If it's on occasion, I wouldn't worry about it.
okay?
Okay, it's a nuisance. As long as you don't mind resetting it, don't sweat it. The two things I want to, those buttons, by the way, these breakers, these are not to protect you. These are to protect your home. Okay, these are for 15 amps. This is the smallest ones you're going to find in homes. Okay, 15 amps will kill you dead. Okay, no problem. All right. So if you're like, oh, it's okay, I got breakers, and the breaker's just like 15 amps will kill you dead, no problem. But this stops fires. Those save lives.
Seriously kill you?
Well, I mean,
I figured.
if you grab the wires, that's why we hide the wires where you can't find them. That's why we put them behind stuff, so you can't get them. You can't find any wires in here. There's a reason. Okay. That's why we got to turn off the breakers if you can change light switches and stuff like that. Okay. Because absolutely, that power is enough to absolutely hurt or kill you. Okay. But these are to protect the house, stop fires. Okay. Those are to protect you. When you wash your hands, and then you go to plug in your hair dryer, and your hand's wet, that thing should pop, okay, without giving you an electric shock. Right? That's what it is designed to do. So that's what you're dealing with. It senses very small differentials in current. Okay? So when you were turning that switch on and off, and it sees that little, sometimes it's going to trip. So, could it be fixed? Probably. Is it worth it? Probably not if it's just a nuisance. If it's happening occasionally, I wouldn't worry about it.
I have another question for you too. Also, I have a tendency to fix things that aren't broken.
Okay?
And consequently, I have people in to fix things that they don't have, and sometimes they make it worse than what I did. But what are some red flags, or what are some things that you would advise us to do when it gets beyond our skill level to call a professional? And what are some things we should look for in a professional? Because I tell you, I've had my experiences with the professionals.
Okay. One, professionals should treat you with respect. Any professional that comes in your house and starts barking orders or starts telling you the way things need to be, blah, 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 the right way to do it kind of stuff, makes you feel pressured, that person's there. Even if they're good at their job, they're going to annoy you and it's not worth it. Okay? So don't put up with that. They should treat you with respect. That's my opinion. Okay? Two, if you ask them technical questions or for references or to explain what's happening, that shouldn't be a problem. Okay? Now, I was asked for references. I often gave phone numbers. Nobody ever called anybody. That's fine. That's my advice. Ask for references. You don't need to call those people. It's probably their brother anyways. Right? You know what I mean? Like, just because somebody says, oh yeah, here's your phone number, call that guy. Doesn't mean anything about that guy. But they should be able to answer that question. But more importantly, hey, what exactly is going on here? Can you just tell me? I'd like to know. Okay? If they can't answer that question, that's a bad sign. Because it's usually pretty easy stuff. And they should be able to explain it to you. Most of the time, professionals who really care about their work are more than happy to explain it. They want, because nobody wants to know. Let me tell you something. Do you know how many cocktail parties I have ruined by being like, hey, do you know the total external static pressure of your furnace? Can we talk about that? Huh? back me up on this. I have been in Maggie's basement more than once, being like, oh yeah, you got any furnace? Oh, it's nice. They're dying for people to be like, oh yeah, I will totally listen to you babble about what you have spent your life learning that nobody else cares about. Okay, that's a good sign. Third, upfront pricing and billing. How much is this going to cost me? Can you tell me? Can you give me an estimate? That shouldn't be a problem. Okay. Now, sometimes we don't know. You know, it's totally reasonable for somebody to go, well, if I open that up and you just need a new GFCI, I'll be out of here in 15 minutes, that's going to cost you $110. Okay? But I might open that up and there's a squirrel back there. You know? Like, we don't know until we open. So they should be able to say, if things go badly, here's my hourly rate, here's how we'll break it down, and here's when I'm going to talk to you. So, you know, like, I guarantee I'll do this for less than $200, or I'm going to talk to you before I make this the thing that's going to cost you more than that. Those all should be easy. Okay, so and across every trade, you know, whether you're dealing with a handyman, a tile person, HVAC person, they should all be able to do that. Okay, yeah, go ahead. I see you. I'll get you in a minute.
So this is not hypothetical. So we've got a switch in our house that sometimes turns a light on and sometimes it doesn't turn the light on. And then sometimes it does again, or sometimes it doesn't turn it off. And it's a light that, it's actually two lights that we switched out from regular incandescent to LED.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're talking about like ceiling fixtures?
Can lights.
Can lights,
Like
okay.
full ones.
Who's the we?
My husband and I.
Your husband and you? Cool, cool,
Yeah.
cool. So you guys put wire nuts on? Yeah?
Oh, no, we didn't literally do it ourselves.
Okay, that's what I meant. You had
We
professionals come in
somebody
and do
else
it? Okay.
Well, were they, I'm not sure they were super professional.
You paid a person.
We paid a person.
You paid a person.
Yes. Yes.
All that we need to do. We'll call that person professional. So listen, the wires behind those things are usually held together, the wire from the fixture and the wire to your home, twisted together and held together with a little tiny nightcap called a wire nut, okay? First thing I check is just, are those tight, okay? Are those tight and are the wires twisted together? Now, if you're gonna do this yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Same rules. Turn off all the power. Confirm the power's off, even if you hit the main breaker. Okay, because I have seen circuits run around the main breaker. Terrifying, but true. Yeah, and I don't know why this used to be a thing people would do, particularly with air conditioners. They would run the air conditioner off the main before the main switch out to a disconnect outside. I don't know why they decided to put that disconnect, because that's required off of the main breaker. That's a poor decision. I've seen it a bunch of times in air conditioners installed from like 65 to 75. I don't know if it's a thing. Probably had to do with the hippies. I don't know. But then occasionally that circuit will get tapped into for an outlet, and then that becomes a light. And so now a thing that would never ring alarm bells isn't. So turn off the breaker and check for beepity beeps. Okay. But yeah, you're just twisting those wire nuts together. You don't need to tape them before you twist them. Okay, if you want to put tape on the outside, it's up to you. But that would be my first thing. The same thing at the switch side. Just a little switch like this.
Yeah.
These switches are pretty cheap. If you're gonna go ahead and open it, I'd change it out. You can get a switch like that for like $1 or $2. If you're gonna go through all the work to pull it out, might as well just put in a brand new one, because sometimes these switches are the problem. That said, all that, if you're feeling up to it, I wouldn't discourage you from doing that. Beyond that, you may still have a problem, and I would actually get it checked out. Because the fact that it sometimes works, sometimes doesn't, could be exactly that, a loose wire, but not at one of those 2 points.
Yeah.
All right? So if you can't find it, that, unlike the other things, I might call a professional. Okay? I don't want to make you too nervous, but you know, I wouldn't necessarily sleep on that forever. Okay? All right.
About the safety around the sink, if you do trip one of the
GFCIs?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you need to, in order to reinstate its safety, its proper functioning as a safety mechanism?
Yeah.
Do you need to then, if it because what if you don't realize it tripped?
Yeah.
And then is it not doing its job then? So,
Ah,
so like, yeah, because you know, we're all running around at rapid
Yeah.
speed and you might not realize
I
you
think
tripped it.
I know what you're saying. I can't remember if this thing makes an audible noise or not. Let's see. Because I have some GFCIs here, and I know you can't see them. Okay, no. So this is my cheap meter, and it doesn't make a noise. So I'll make it for you. My meter's over here, and it's going beep. Okay? And then when we push this button, listen for the click. Okay? Did you hear the click?
Yes.
It sounded like this, click. Now this thing is not making any noise. I pushed the test button. So on those things, there's two buttons. One says test, one says reset. So if you've gotten this wet, this is what it will do. It will revert to this state. And the reason this is not going beep is because there's no power in it. It shut the power off inside the wall where it is safe. So it's done its job. You are safe 100%. This thing is still functioning, but the outlet isn't. I can't power anything anymore.
Okay.
Your hairdryer will no longer run.
Okay.
If I push the reset button, beep, here, okay. If you can't reset it, it means one of two things. So if you go to push that reset button and it won't reset, or you push it and it pops immediately, you push it and it pops immediately, if it won't reset at all, it may have also tripped the breaker. Okay? That can absolutely happen. And it doesn't necessarily mean there's a major problem. If it's once in a while and not a big deal. If it's all the time, you got a problem. But if the breaker's tripped and there is no power, you cannot reset that. It needs power to be reset. So you're going to have to turn this on first and then reset that. Okay? If you go and push that button and it keeps popping on you, walk away, go to bed, come back the next day and try again. Okay? If water gets in there, it's going to have to dry out first. So if you really like splashed it or something, just let it be. The next day, if you push it and it still won't reset, you got to replace it. Okay? Because the mechanism in there that makes that thing work does fail occasionally. Did that answer your question all the way?
Yes, yes.
Good. Awesome. Okay. If Maggie's not going to cut me up, I'm going to keep talking. Plumbing, one thing I want you to know, at a bare minimum of plumbing, like I said, be a little cautious of plumbing, except anything that's already outside of the wall, you can probably handle, and you should at least attempt it, because you're just looking at the parts and going to the store and seeing what fits. But I want you to know, specifically toilets. A new toilet's like 150, 200 bucks, I think. I haven't bought one in a minute, but they're not that expensive, and they're not that hard to put in. The hardest part about putting in a toilet is lifting it, okay? So if you can handle that, or better yet, you can call somebody to handle that for you, okay? Your cousin or your nephew or your brother or whatever, right? A toilet's pretty easy to put in. It's like 2 bolts, one of these things, and a wax ring on the ground. Plumbers charge a lot of money sometimes to fix toilets because they're afraid you don't want to touch a toilet because it's gross, okay? And it is, I get it, okay? And if you don't want to touch it because it's gross, pay the plumber. But plumbers cost a lot of money sometimes. See that right there? Complete kit, fix your toilet in one trip. You can buy these, and I particularly like this brand. I'm not a shill, they don't pay me. I wish they did. But Corky universal products fit most toilets. You don't necessarily have to waste your time if you don't want. You can just replace all the parts, and I recommend doing that. Again, this kit costs like 25 or 30 bucks depending on a couple of small details. If you get the wrong one, you can take it back to the store really easily. All you need are some simple basic hand tools. All the instructions are on the back. You do not need to be a licensed plumber to do this. And if your toilet is running, not flushing right, kind of weird, doing this thing, gurgling, noising stuff, I don't know what's wrong with it, but it's doing, just put one of these in. There's no way that this costs more than a plumber, okay? And again, this is all really easy stuff. If you can put in a light bulb, you can probably handle this. okay? The instructions are right in here. There's all kind of YouTube videos that walk you through this. It's easy stuff. I encourage you to try this with kids. I've heard terrifying stories. Somebody I know spent $780 on a plumber to fix a toilet. And I went, why? How? The toilet's $200. Did they buy 3 toilets? How did you get there? By the same token, I'm not mad at the plumber, right? Because the plumber had to come out there. The plumber had to spend half their day. Half their day might be worth that price. And that's the point. They don't want to do this job any more than you want to pay them. So just give it a shot, all right? That's my advice on that. Somebody over here or something?
Yeah, do you need any special tools for that?
No. Nope, you do not. This is screwdrivers, rags, crescent wrench. You got a crescent wrench? Yep, you're set. This guy's coming in handy. Yeah, go ahead.
As far as that kit that you're talking about,
Yep.
and I know it varies, from job to job, but are you talking about if you replace the whole toilet, or if the toilet is fine, but you just need the innards
Okay.
changed?
So, toilets. All right, let's talk toilets for a minute. In the floor, there's a hole that goes into the pipes, okay? That's where the wax ring goes. Okay, so that's one part. I don't have one up here. It's a wax ring, it sits on the ground. If you ever need to pull a toilet up, you gotta replace that, okay? So if you're buying a new toilet, you're gonna replace that. If the toilet's not coming off the ground, we don't need that. So if the toilet's not wobbly or leaking out the bottom, we can ignore the wax ring completely, all right? Then the toilet has 2 sort of sections. There's the bowl section, right? The bottom part, and the tank. Okay, the bowl section doesn't do anything. It's just cast piece of porcelain. No parts, okay? Nothing intelligent happening there, okay? All the action is in the tank, all right? The tank's got a fill valve, a flush valve, and a flapper, okay? This thing fills up that tank when you're not paying attention. This thing lets the water out when you need to pay attention, okay? And this thing does the job. This is all those parts. So you don't need to say, oh, do I need, do I need a flapper? Do I need the ball cock repair kit for my ancient toilet? No, don't worry. Don't worry your head about all that. Okay, that's not worth it. Just go to the store, buy this thing. It's 25 or 30 bucks, and replace all of it. Why? Because if this failed, you know what's going next week? That thing. And if this thing fails, you know what's going next week is this thing. Okay, that's always been my opinion. Whenever I went out to do these kind of jobs, I call ahead. What kind of toilet you got? I try to show up with one of these. If I need to show up with 2 or 3, I show up with 2 or 3. So I'm replacing all of this. It costs you 200 bucks. That's what I'm going to do. You don't want me to do that, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to waste my time figuring out which little thing is leaking. You can absolutely buy tiny little gaskets and all the little parts for these kind of things. If that's what you want to do with your Saturday evening, more power to you. I support it. Like and there are times when that's what I wanted to do with my Saturday evening, so I get it. Okay, I support it. But most of you don't, because you're not handymen. If that made you happy, you'd be where I am. Okay? What makes you happy is something else. So go do that and don't waste your time, but don't waste your money and get this okay.
So the toilet is fine, I'm just speaking
Yeah,
hypothetical.
so now we're hypothetical.
And then we're going to just replace everything inside the toilet?
In the tank.
That's absolutely fine, the tank, whatever you call it.
That's all the tank stuff.
Yeah, so you
Right.
don't have to necessarily oh my gosh.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Right. The worst thing in a toilet repair job, in my opinion, because all that's easy. Okay, like I said, replacing a whole toilet is pretty easy as long as you can lift it. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
Again, you call somebody. It's okay.
Yeah.
Just bring a pizza. Right? Like people are, hey, I'll come over to the toilet for you, whatever. Okay. They do, by the way, make cool stuff you can pour in the toilet. It's like instant Jello of the water. So you don't make it like his. Because there's always gonna be some water even after.
Oh.
So if you lift that as you're walking it out, you're not going sploosh, splosh, splish, splash,
Ew.
all the way down the stairs.
Yeah.
Why don't you clean? Why don't you flush it a few times? Anyways, but that thing is all the stuff in the tank. The tank and the bowl have a gasket between them. So if you're leaking out that gasket, that's one of my least favorite gigs. You got to pull the tank off the top and replace that thing. But that thing can be replaced too. It's like $6. Okay, and that's again, you don't need any special tools. Crescent wrench, big screwdriver, 2, maybe 3 screws, new gasket. Do it again.
Do you have to drain the water?
I mean, you don't have to, but you're gonna wish you did. Yeah, so, oh, out of the house? No. So coming out your wall, right? Coming out your wall, you're gonna have a valve that looks pretty much like this. Okay, there's a couple of variations. All right? By the way, if this cracked, you can buy a new handle, okay? Or, and the reason I say that is because I've seen this thing cracks or falls off or whatever, and people try and grab this with a pair of pliers, and a lot of times these little stems are plastic, and then you mess them up, and then you cause yourself a real difficult situation where you do end up having to shut the water off because I got to replace this. Okay, you can buy just the handle for less than $1, and it just slots right on. And there's like 3 styles, so that's the easy one. So this is coming out of the wall. Shut that. Flush the toilet. Now I got most of the water out. The rest of it, towel or 2. Maybe you want to leave this on, flush it twice, then do this, then flush it again. You know, I'm just saying. Maybe throw a little disinfectant in there before you get started. Up to you. So.
All right, I'm going to say one more question.
One more question.
So.
All right. Okay. She's the only one who's going to bid for this last question spot.
Please, and I'm a Maggie, so I could,
Oh, there we go.
The stopper on a sink, that when you pull the little thing up and down,
Yes.
it stops moving. Is that hard to figure out?
No! It's so easy, okay? This is the fun thing is when I do these ones, I just bring like a million parts and I go over, and I don't have one of those today. So you're talking about the little plunger sort of like back by the handles, and it moves this right here.
Or
okay?
not, yeah.
Work with me, I don't have a chalkboard. This guy here
Uh-huh.
runs underneath the countertop. Underneath that, it's going to be screwed to a long stem, okay? There'll be some way this attaches. Don't worry about the details on that. There's a couple options. It's not super important. But halfway down that, there's a piece that moves, and it's going to have a little thumb screw on it, okay? And that piece that moves will attach to a stem going this way, okay? That thumb screw, because you're hypothetical or no?
Absolutely true.
Absolutely true. If you're pulling this up and down and this thing's doing nothing,
And it won't go anywhere, yeah.
is it in the up position or in the down position all the time?
It's the down, I have to kind of.
Okay, cool.
Pull
So,
it around.
most likely what happened, and you got no leaking happening?
No.
Most likely what has happened is where the down part meets this horizontal part
Uh-huh.
has just come loose.
Oh.
And you just got to reach in there and tighten it up. Often it is hand. It's like a little wheel on a screw.
Okay.
If it's been there for a while, if it's old, okay,
It could be old, yeah.
you may need to put a tool on that to get it to work, okay? Maybe a squirt will get you some assistance as well. But usually that's all it is, okay? So get under there with a flashlight, have your buddy move the thing up and down, and you'll probably see this happening.
Okay.
And then you just gotta attach those two to each other, okay? The other thing that can happen, this rod goes through a little fitting, a little PVC fitting, or brass fitting, okay? And there's a ball inside the pipe, okay, that holds the water back. The rod actually goes through that ball. It can corrode and break off. If it did, you can buy that whole kit. It's pretty cheap and it's not very hard. Okay, once you look at it for a minute and go, yeah, I see all the parts. Where that rod goes through and that ball sits, there's like a little nut here that you're going to have to undo.
Okay.
And then all these parts can come out and just put in new. Okay? And as long as you don't have a sink full of water, you don't even need to turn the water off for that job. Easy stuff. Okay?
I think getting stuff out from underneath my sink is the hard part.
Yes, that can be extraordinarily difficult for some people, myself included. All right, thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate it.